I mean, I think a lot of people's mindsets is I just want to get whatever I'm doing done so I can go back to doing nothing. You know what I mean? And it's such a sad mindset to be in. And that's another thing Bitcoin reminds you. It's like, just enjoy the task that you're doing. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Why Bitcoin podcast, the podcast where we question everything, but mainly why Bitcoin. I'm your host. My name's Jeff. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm joined here by my I don't have a good adjective today, big and jolly co-host,
Wow. Like
Doug.
Santa Claus
Doug,
all
how
of a
you
sudden?
doing?
Cool.
You kind of got a Santa Claus vibe. When I think about you, Santa Claus comes to mind. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, buddy. It's a little weird today. We're recording on a different day normally than we normally do. So
The
it's
sun is up.
yeah, and normally I'm looking out at a dark night and now it's daytime. That's really kind of throwing me off, I'm not gonna lie. So
It's a beautiful thing. Talking
yeah.
during the days. I've heard people can do it, so we're gonna try our
It's
best.
weird, but we'll do our best. Anyways,
Right on. Today on the show, we have an absolutely wonderful guest with us. Somebody we found in the jungle of Twitter. Our guest today is Batters. Batters, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm good. Very
Right
happy to
on.
be talking to you guys.
We're excited to talk to you too, man. I was really excited when I saw that tweet, and then Doug messaged me and he's like, "Hey, man, I got a guest for the show." And then he said, "Yeah, he sent this tweet." I was like, "Oh my god, I saw that tweet. This guy is amazing." So I was really excited to talk to you about it.
It's the
Um,
only good thing I've ever done in my life. So
I highly,
I had to tweet about it.
I highly doubt that's true. I'd like to let everybody know where they can find us. You can find us very easily if you go to whybitcoinpodcast.com. There you'll find my Twitter, Doug's Twitter. We'll have all of Batter's info as well. And what else do we have? A Twitter, an email, a Discord, and I think that's it. Am I
yeah,
forgetting anything, Doug?
just go to whybitcoinpodcast.com.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
That'll just make it easier for everybody.
There you go.
So
Right
hey
on.
Jeff.
Hey, Doug.
Real quick, man. I know we have to do this all the time, but is anything on this show financial advice?
We don't give any financial advice. We're just two dudes talking. If you
Okay.
take anything we say as financial advice, then you're wrong in everything you've ever done.
Listen, if you're taking our advice on anything, you
Yeah.
really need to like reassess your life choices, honestly.
This is a bad podcast to listen to if you're looking for advice. This is just two dudes, or in today's case, three dudes talking.
Yep.
Let's get to talking, man.
Let's
I,
do
I
it.
wanna I wanna listen to Doug or to Batter tell us all about his life. Batter, I'd like to ask you just to open the show up. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about your Bitcoin story, as such as how you found it, how you got involved, and you can go as little detail or as much detail as you like. I love these stories, man.
Um, well, I can give you a shorter or a more rambling version of it. I always opt for the ramble if I am left to my own devices.
Right on, ramble on.
Go for it, man.
Well, an orange pill sort of like requires several things, right? It requires filling a glass of water, sort of pumped from your intellectual well to be ready to swallow the pill. You have to put it on your tongue first. It takes several steps. I suppose the drawing up of water for the glass to get me ready for this was that I suppose I've always lived a curious or a life driven by ideas and curiosity, and that has informed everything I've done professionally and where I've gone, where I've lived, and so there. I suppose there was a long history of kind of independent thought and exploring rabbit holes that got me primed for when I encountered Bitcoin. Um, Also, I had had a few other little rabbit hole journeys that got me primed for the idea of scarcity. So I, early on, probably starting in 2010, 2011, I fell into the rare whiskey rabbit hole. I
Okay.
read and drank anything that I could get my hands on to do with a whiskey. I plowed a significant amount of money into buying all this rare whiskey, mainly from a dead Japanese distillery called Girazawa.
Wow.
All the bottles are either hand blown or the labels are made of sort of artisan paper and hand painted with calligraphy or whatever, like real bottles of art. And so, and that had done me really well. Um, sort of, yeah. So again, it was sort of a mix of pure interest, but also sort of fueled by a monetary incentive.
Yeah, totally. I didn't even know rare whiskey existed, man. That's brand new to me. The
No,
amount of rabbit holes on this earth are
I know
a
it is endless.
rabbit hole, man.
So yeah, I suppose just and also I was a music producer songwriter by profession in my sort of fiat life when I had a fiat life still. And as part of being an independent, self-employed person, you're always aware that A, you need multiple income streams um, to kind of hedge the one thing that you do, but also that no one is going to give you a company pension and a gold watch when you sort of
If you make it,
yeah one
you're
and or
very
when you're sorry.
yeah, you have to be self-reliant when you're working for yourself. Absolutely.
Exactly, and kind of just plan for the future, right? So also kind of taught me low time preference even then,
Mm.
and yeah. Anyway, so I always had my eye out for things to, you know, places to allocate capital to, etc. And in 2010, I had a friend who, well, friend of a friend. I'm sure he still is a bit of a loose cannon. He did way too many Class A drugs, and but also he just, you know, he was one of these mad geniuses. You kind of you sometimes are lucky enough to meet. He basically in 1999 he programmed up a virtual reality jam space for musicians to jam across the world.
In
Um,
'99,
in
that's yeah.
Wow.
99, yeah, as a school project. And he started mining Bitcoin in 2010. But
Oh
because he
boy.
was such a loose
Okay.
cannon and he didn't give me any of the sort of monetary spiel or anything, you know, it was just purely like magic nerd internet money. I kind of wrote it off. Um, he had 45,000 Bitcoin at that point.
Oof.
Okay. Okay.
Spent it
We're in
on
the
all,
big leagues.
spent it all on big bags of ketamine and
Yeah.
various other
No.
things. So he lives in a van
Imagine how
today.
much more he could have bought today.
Yeah, man.
So much ketamine.
He lives in a van. He lives in a van. Drives across Europe with with his wife and his kid.
That's
Um,
awesome. That's a good life.
it's a
Yeah,
good life,
not
but
bad.
you know, I'm sure he's thinking a lot about the 45,000 Bitcoin he could have had.
You think did he spend it all? I mean, I guess it was pretty easy to spend it all back then, right? You didn't have very many things to spend it on, so.
I well, he as far as I understand, I have tried to make contact with him since, but as far as I understand, maybe he just has incredibly good OPSEC, um, but
Ah, yeah.
I, I think he sort of lives from check to check. But anyway, so you know, I had a couple of touches with Bitcoin early on like that, that I wrote off, and then I was visiting my parents with my wife. Um, we just started suspecting that maybe she was pregnant. We were sat on the train going to see my parents. It was all very exciting, thinking about like, oh, we basically tried, as I told you guys before we started ripping. We tried for 7 or 8 years to have kids. Nothing had happened. We tried IVF, Chinese traditional medicine, all sorts of other things. So when we started kind of getting the scent that something was happening, we were obviously incredibly excited. And I was sat there on the train. There was a two-hour train journey in front of us to go to my parents. I sat there thinking about, oh, do we tell them that maybe we suspect something is happening, And I checked my email, and there was a newsletter from this sort of slightly heterodox kind of investment, newsletter that I was subscribing to, and they started talking about Bitcoin. I was like, "Fucking hell, is Bitcoin still? That's still going, is it?" And so I spent the next 2 hours on the train journey. This is early summer 17. Just absolutely devouring everything I could. Like, I'd completely forgotten about the fact that my wife might be pregnant. I just absolutely nailed what I
There's
could
more
find.
important things going on right
Exactly.
now,
Is more
woman.
important than your kid. All right.
Oh yeah. I mean, he might not be there, right? This was an opportunity for the right now. And by the time we arrived, I had basically decided that I was gonna throw a chunk of money at it as soon as I possibly could. And
Wow.
so that was my first. That was my pill on the tongue, right? So, but actually swallowing the pill, I don't think came until the following bear market, where I um, had, all of a sudden, you say lost. It's not obviously not lost if you don't sell, but I was finding myself down in the hole by six figures, and thinking a lot about what was going on, and starting to dig into more to what Bitcoin was, and that was actually the sort of period where I really truly started, well, where I swallowed the pill, and since then it's just been nuts deep.
So you went from being really panicked that you were losing all this money to like, oh crap, I got to buy this freaking dip as soon as possible. Pretty much. Yeah,
Yeah,
this 17.
I think the bear market is I mean, in many ways it's more interesting than the bull, I think. It's really where you start building kind of intellectual infrastructure. You start building projects. You really start you have the time to really deeply reflect on stuff. Um, and Yeah, I don't think I ever lost faith. I was I was shitting it because obviously seeing your net worth sort of drained by a significant percentage um, is is a bit freaky. But I never lost faith in Bitcoin. I just worked out that I really needed to put in the work to really find out what was going on, so I could make informed decisions instead of just this rabid kind of uh, bull cycle kind of hype
Yeah.
action.
Scrambling for make as many gains as possible, bro. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
very silly. That's good, man.
We're
That's good
definitely
stuff.
seeing that this time around too, where uh, people are getting into the space just for the gains, and then now that it's pulled back a little bit, you're starting to see. Hopeful. I mean, I'm seeing a few people, not as much as I'd like, but you see a few people that are more like, what is this? Like, okay, I've made my money or whatever, and now it's entering into it's you're right, because it pulls back and it becomes a little more of a philosophical exercise than a monetary one. So,
Mm.
Hmm.
which I think
And man,
is really core to the Bitcoin understanding. So
I think it's let it be known, batters. For me and Doug, we both just entered the Bitcoin space last December, so we haven't lived through a bear market
Mm.
at all yet. We're still just on this rampant climb, which is either it's lucky or very unlucky. But I'm looking at it as a positive. I know that eventually we're gonna hit a high point somewhere, but just keep on stacking, right? So the best
That's
thing
it.
about coming in late is seeing everybody else make mistakes. That's what I try
Mm.
and learn from. So it's like it seems like you didn't make the mistake of selling all your Bitcoin when you saw the price dip, which is good.
I've never
Uh,
sold. I've never sold a single sat.
Beautiful.
I've bought a couple of
Nice.
things with Bitcoin, like the Citadel 21 yearly subscription. I think that's probably
Oh,
the only thing I've bought with Bitcoin, actually. No, I never sold. I did dabble in shit coins in 17 in the
we
and
all
Hmm.
do.
That's what. Yeah, I like to say it's part of the process. Is your awkward shitcoin phase.
yeah,
It's like the teenage part
It's
of
like the
your
teenage year.
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's your teenage years. Yeah.
But even I mean even then I think I what I decided to do was to keep a core allocation to Bitcoin only. I think probably I think I split a 60-40 or thereabouts, and basically 60% Bitcoin I was never going to touch, and the 40% I was going to try to make more Bitcoin. I don't know where I picked that up, but I kind of had a gut feeling that shit coins were for making more Bitcoin rather
Hmm.
than having any real value in their own right. But I mean, I could have had at least 10 more Bitcoin if I hadn't dabbled in shit coins, or
Okay. That
if I'd
was gonna be
sold
my
early.
question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody thinks they're gonna make these awesome gains with the shit coins, and it seems like 99% of people end up losing. There are a few standout, really prominent traders that make some good trades, but for the vast majority of people, they just can't do it, and they never know when to sell their shit coins to turn it into Bitcoin. So
Well,
that's why,
there's like
yeah,
8,000 of them. How do you do that?
Yeah, how
Like,
do you do due diligence or anything like that? And another
yeah.
thing is like one of the one of the beauties of Bitcoin for me, for the average person or the average investor, is that you know in the legacy system up until Bitcoin, if you wanted to sort of outperform inflation, um, you had to become an expert in allocating your capital somehow. You had to
Yep.
become an expert in stocks, in day trading, or in property, or whatever sort of asset that you thought you could outperform inflation with. Um, like Bitcoin takes all of that away. Just buy and hold Bitcoin. But if you know, altcoins is the kind of that's the worst part in my view, right? It's the worst parts of the legacy system kind of rolled into this new digital economy. Um,
Yep.
no monetary, solid monetary policy, right? No proper decentralization, and it also kind of reflects in that way that I was talking about. That you know, if you actually want to make some money, rather than if it's not just like playing the tombola, um, then you have to like do all sorts of work to even realize what they're about, um, and even then you probably don't realize that they're dog shit and you shouldn't touch them.
exactly. They're just for making more Bitcoin, and you're not
Yeah.
going to. Okay, what's a tombola?
Oh,
Yeah. I was.
Tombola. This could be my Danglish, my Danish English. Tombola is a kind of old school fairground kind of drum where you have like your
Okay.
lottery tickets in and they turn the drum and they open a little hatch and pull out a ticket.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's like one of them spinning wheels.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, it's like a lottery.
Yeah,
Lottery,
yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
gotcha.
I'm just
I
a
had no
clumsy
idea.
bastard.
Yeah, shitcoins freaking suck, man. Okay, well, good for you for not doing that. I like people that see that's what it's all about, man. And it seems like there's a big divide between people that just want to get rich and people that want to learn about the financial system. And I think what you said is so true. Is all these people are learning, oh, in order to get rich I need to learn how to trade all this stuff, enter the shitcoin casino. Oh well, I can learn this, when it's really no, now that Bitcoin exists, you don't have to learn how to trade all this stuff. All you have to do is buy Bitcoin and go back to work. It's
All you
that
have to
simple.
do is generate your own value and then
Yes.
store it in a place where the value doesn't dissipate. That's it.
Mm,
Yeah, that's it.
You know.
yeah.
So
That's good. It's nice to talk to people that share the same ideology. I'm still looking for people that don't believe it. Like, it's nice to talk to people that agree with you. And people are like, no, man, you don't understand these gains, bro. Anyways,
I
whatever. Like,
actually, I uh, I actually lost a couple friends this week because of that. So
Hmm.
I,
a couple, the numbers going up.
yeah, it went from one to two.
Uh
So
oh.
yeah, it was.
Well,
I
I
don't know.
mean,
I just
They'll
yeah.
come
Go ahead.
back around, man. They're just gonna stay in their shitcoin phase, the awkward shitcoin phase, and then eventually they'll break out. It's gonna be fine.
They're both convinced that it's good to make money, and I am. Uh, Batters, actually, you brought up Citadel 21, and I wanted to bring it up on the show, and you did, so that's nice. Thank you. I actually got accepted. I wrote a piece for their July episode or issue, so
great.
and it's
Nice one.
talking about this very thing, that this idea of shit coins are basically. Um, I believe it's stealing. I think it's shit coins are a way for the smart and the informed to steal from the stupid and uninformed. And
Mm.
I got into it with some friends of mine, and they're not friends anymore because I just kind of, I guess I insulted them with that hot take. So
Right. Well, I
They'll
mean,
come back around.
it's a bit like central banking or sort of legacy system.
it is. It's a
I'm
derivative of that, right? Like it's that
exactly.
same mentality.
Yeah, and
So
I am sure. I mean, and maybe I am. No, I think this is fairly objective. I think there are a lot of people that have good intentions, right? I don't think it's every shitcoiner or every person behind every shitcoin project that is um, sort of consciously thinking about ripping other people off. Like, I don't think it's every person that every Keynesian economist or every central banker or whatever that consciously is perpetuating and proliferating this kind of crime story. Um, I think a lot of them are well intended, um,
hmm yeah, I could see that.
um, but they're just basing
They're
their
just wrong.
narrative on, yeah, on something that I don't think is true,
Yeah.
and only time will kind of prove that to them, right? We have our narrative that we have have based on in on our own research, and this is, you know, for some reason, personal responsibility has become this sort of poo-poo word. It's become a right-wing word in some circles, and I just think we all have the personal responsibility to look after our own shit. And if you can't decipher what's going on, then, well, you are gonna unfortunately suffer for your bad hypotheses and
Mhm.
analysis.
Hashtag NGMI. That's what me and my wife have been saying to people now that just don't understand.
Mm,
Not gonna make it. You're just not gonna make it.
yeah. But
Okay.
anyway, I personally, I don't really spend any energy on shit coins. I have
No,
my,
exactly.
to be honest with you, I don't even really spend much energy on price. I have a beautiful Bitcoin ticker behind me that you can't see because we're not on video. It's
You have one of them block clock things?
no, I beautiful as the block clock is. I've got a voltage goat um, a ticker. Um, it's made of old Russian and Ukrainian submarine tubes or
Oh
valves
wow.
that I put into a print board filled with neon gas. It's got a little Wi-Fi board in there, and it basically in these eight, two, four, six, eight uh, valves or tubes, it is displaying the Bitcoin price and updates every second.
That's cool. Wow,
That's
that's
I'm
cool.
looking at it right now
It's
online.
fucking
It's
beautiful.
that's those are That's actually pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll
Um,
flash a picture of it on the YouTube video if we can.
yeah, but
Okay.
And get the editor to do that.
Yeah, we'll have the editor do that.
but apart from that, I don't really. I have faith that I'm not in it for the short term, right? Um, I have no interest in looking on Coin Market Cap or whatever to compare Bitcoin to shit coins. It's just wasted energy as far as I'm concerned. And
hmm
I know very little about shit coins nowadays because, well, I just don't want to allocate any energy to that.
Well, that actually goes well into my next question is these shitcoiners want to make money, but what real Bitcoiners do is what they're trying to do is spread the wealth, I think. And that's something that you really hit the nail on the head with well with your tweet where you explained that you gave your tenants all a 30% break on their rent and asked them to put it into Bitcoin while providing them with a certain book. And I'd love to just hear how that ended up going for you. One of my questions is, how did they react? Did anybody know what Bitcoin was? And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so what happened was that I, like many Bitcoiners, over the sort of 4 years I've been in Bitcoin now, I've become increasingly evangelical about it. I do believe that it's really gonna change the human race for the better, um, and it's gonna provide a lifeboat for all of us in what I think is impending financial doom. Um, and I say this being a sort of swinging between being a rational to e- eternal optimist. Um, so I suppose I've generally been on a mission to spread the word of Bitcoin, not to pump my own bags because it's like some tenant or friend of mine putting like $100 into Bitcoin is going to mean fuck all for my Bitcoin price, right, or my Bitcoin stash. Um, but more, it's just to I've been yeah. Let me just quickly describe what I did. So I I have a few. I have a bit of a sort of property portfolio that I've been building up. This was another rabbit hole. I started buying sort of rundown property and doing all the renovation work myself, building them up to again incredible sort of standard. I wanted not just to offer people like a box to live in. I wanted to give them a beautiful, well thought out and well designed place to live.
A
I
real
think,
home.
yeah, and I suppose that is the kind of mentality that also goes into what I did for my tenants. I don't want to just make money rent seeking and leeching off of the system or off of people. If people provide me with value, I want to do the same for them. I think any kind of trade should be a win-win situation. That's how you build kind of longevity. That's how you sleep well at night, and that's how you feel good about spending the money that you earn. I think. Um, yeah, exactly, man. Spread the wealth, but spread the love. And so part of this was it was Christmas 2019, and I basically decided to send all my tenants the Bitcoin standard, a Trezor, and then, as you say, I gave them 30% off their rent for 3 months, uh, for you know a, basically on the proviso that they would put it into Bitcoin. Um,
Hmm.
Wow.
Not demanding them to, just like suggesting that they did, I would assume.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to ask for proof of reserves or
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
like that.
Right.
But I thought like a generous gesture would be enough for them to take it serious. And
Hmm.
so what happened was that I sold one of the flats last week, um, and this whole experience of this the first property I've actually sold. Otherwise, I've only been buying, a bit like Bitcoin, and it made me realize just how illiquid uh, and what a liability property is. I mean, it took
Oh
me
yeah, it
6
was
months to sell this place.
Oh
really.
wow. Okay.
Um, so yeah, and
And
what
just
happened?
let
Yeah,
us know where was the property in France or somewhere else?
in the south of England,
Okay,
in the
it's
Okay.
southeast
England.
of England.
Oh.
Um, and yeah, so what happened was that my tenant sent me a message basically saying that I had changed her life. I had put her on the path towards freedom and independence, and she would always remember that, which was just a beautiful thing to hear. So I didn't mean to sort of like virtue signal by sharing that tweet, but it was something that moved me, and I hoped would. And, oh, I got chickens coming in here in my office.
There you go. The infamous
Go out.
chickens.
Go out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would say the one thing that caught me about the tweet was the fact, and this might be a little bit weird, but the fact that you gave them the book really is what sort of like stuck in my head while I was reading that, because you talk to people, especially like with shitcoins or whatever, and they're like, let's make massive gains, man, this thing is going to the moon, blah blah blah. But Bitcoiners, and what you did there was you didn't say, hey man, make a lot of money. What you said is, hey man, educate yourself. Look at this. Look at
Right.
this information. This is important stuff. And I think it's so important that I'm going to do, all of these things. I'm going to, 30% the whole 9 yards. And just the fact that you gave them the book was such a, like a, it was such a linchpin to what you did. You know what I mean? In my view, that was the point where I was like, this guy is serious about this. He's not. I didn't see it as virtue signaling at all. I saw it as he believes in this so much, and he believes in the education that is required for this so much. And he was. I just thought that was great. That's why I reached out to you, because it really was. It was that, because I just saw that and I was like, this guy's the real deal, and it was really cool. So good on you for that, by the
Well,
way.
yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah. I suppose. Okay, gonna have to. Can you hear them on the mic as well now?
It's good.
Right, pick up.
It's good.
This is the first interview we've had with chickens.
Yeah, yeah.
It's most
And
most chickens per podcast for sure.
attention-seeking dinosaurs.
That's
There you
right.
go.
Take
But
that, Peter McCormick. We got more chickens than you, buddy.
It's debatable.
so, but yeah, no. I mean, yes, it is about the education. I think Bitcoin isn't what's going to change your life. Holding some Bitcoin. If I just sent them all or told them all to, you know, download an app and sent them some Sats, that wouldn't have changed anything for them, or there would have been less of a chance of them kind of reaping the
Actually
real
learning, yeah.
benefits. The
Right.
the real difference we can make in our own lives and in the lives of those around us is encouraging and introducing them to really, really great resources, so they can make the steps themselves to
Yeah.
learn what it is that this monetary and social revolution is about. Um,
Yep.
and so, because obviously, if they don't have that knowledge base to build from, they're going to be weak hands. They're probably never going to buy more Bitcoin. Maybe um, it's and that's just born out of 4 years and probably like 8,000 hours of just being studious and interested and curious, and so that's why I think we can really change the lives of people around us.
It's hard. Okay, so this is great because you know what? I'm going to take what you said to heart because my biggest struggle in trying to get people to learn about Bitcoin has been what is the first thing I show them? And what's funny to me is Doug was one of the first people I talked to about Bitcoin. I was just like, "Here, man, take a look at this," and he ended up doing it, and we've had our whole journey together, sort of thing. But we've debated on what is the first thing you send to somebody, and I just want to say this is the funniest thing that Doug ever did. I told him to read the white paper of Bitcoin for like the last 6 months, and he's like, "No, I don't need to read it." You did say that, right, Doug?
I did. I said it, and I
Okay.
stand by that. I stand by
Okay,
it.
but the second you read the white paper, I think was definitely a aha moment for you. And then furthermore, you were trying to get your I think it was your parents to get in it. And I'm like, oh, what did you send them? And you said, well, I sent them the white paper. I was like,
Okay, that part, yes.
well, after 6 months, after 6 months of you saying, I don't want to read this stupid white paper, and then
Well,
that's what you send. So we're trying to figure out what's the best thing to send to somebody to get them to
yeah.
start the plunge. And the Bitcoin Standard, would that be high on your list? Do you have any reasoning particularly about that book or anything else you would suggest sending to somebody?
Well, I mean, briefly on the white paper, I think that's a pretty steep learning curve.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
quite technical language. There's a lot of math in there. Um, I was involved in doing the voice paper project in February and March.
Oh, were
Oh,
you? Very
nice.
cool. Very
Together
cool.
with Dim and Soul and Daniel Prince and MTC and some others. And yeah, I mean, the white paper I read when I first got into Bitcoin, and I have to say, most of it went over my head. What
That's my
really,
point. Thank you,
Same
batters.
thing.
yeah,
It's really the first opening paragraph, the abstract. I read that and I was
yeah,
like, oh,
the
okay.
abstract is good, but even that to somebody, I don't think it's enough of a framework to kind of build everything else on. Personally
Mhm.
speaking, I think for me, understanding Bitcoin or kind of letting yourself be taken down the rabbit hole is to understand the why Bitcoin.
Exactly. Thank you.
And
Thank you. Sorry,
uh,
hold on. I just got to
Mhm.
pull my hand off my back. It's just been
uh,
patting myself
God,
on the back. So
batters. You know what, batters? This guy has. We've gone back and forth. Well, when we started this podcast, we went back and forth on the title,
mm,
and Jeff was very adamant about why Bitcoin, and I
mm,
was like, man, there are other cooler ones, and
mm.
now you've just after 16 episodes, you've just totally validated him, and I'm never going to hear the damn end of it. So thanks a lot.
We should have had a
an-
word about this before, obviously.
Oh
it's
yeah.
another check for Team Jeff. That's my first check mark beside my name. Everybody's always on Team Doug, and I'm finally like, yes, I got one.
No,
Okay,
because
so yeah, the why is so important though. It's like Bitcoin doesn't matter. It's everything else that doesn't work that
yeah,
I find fascinating.
and I've set up a few sort of businesses in my time, and I think in order to really understand your own business, even in order to be able to communicate your brand properly, the why is it's really what cuts to the heart of everything that you do and why you do it. That's really how you put. Yeah, that's where you grow everything else from, I think.
I agree.
Um,
Because if you're not curious, then there's you're not going to get anywhere if you're not curious.
yeah,
So
and
how to make people curious?
so yeah, I mean, I think there the difference between now and 2017, let alone before that, is huge in terms of the resources that are available. So many people, the 17 cycle was brought a lot of great minds in. Um, you know, and they've all, a lot of them. Well, a lot of the people that are in this space now, some of the cornerstones, intellectual cornerstones, were born out of that 17 bull cycle. So getting started now is so much easier. There is so much incredible content to draw on, and it keeps on building and accumulating all the time.
It's tough because it's nice that there's so much, but it also means you have to filter out so much bad stuff. I think that's why people's shitcoin phases are lasting longer because they're getting trapped into these content creators that are talking all about trades and this stuff. And there's
Mm.
so much good content out there with so many podcasts and books and things you can read, and it's so important.
I,
The Bitcoin Standard, the Sovereign Individual, all these books.
mm. I think the signal. I think the signal to noise ratio is a lot higher in terms of signal now, though.
Okay,
I would
I-
agree with that. I
yeah,
would agree. It's
but
definitely made it. I mean, if you think about it, Jeff, like, we started in December, and we're we've managed to find so much to work with, that that we're here now, kind of a
Mm.
thing. So
Hmm.
But
But I also think
yeah.
sorry, I just think we're sort of in a different class because once you're in the Bitcoin rabbit hole, once you've already started learning it, it's very easy to pick out what signal
that's
and
true.
what
Yeah, that's
noise
true
is,
too.
right?
Mm.
So when you see an article or a video, you can be like, oh, this is all nothing. Oh, there's the one thing that's important, and we can pick it out.
Mm.
But for the onlooker and batters, for the most part, this podcast is for the new person coming into Bitcoin with no knowledge. It's hard to differentiate what's noise and what's signal, although, I mean, I really think that's true. So hopefully we can find easier ways to get that knowledge out.
Mm.
Best way for me is just to start yelling at people, but it hasn't proven to work
Yeah.
so far yet.
Well, my
Stop
my
being stupid.
my entire journey, because I've basically spent, since I left the metropolis, I have spent all my time kind of retrograding in many ways. So I got off all social media. I was never on Twitter anyway. I was trying to resist having too many platforms, and so I didn't actually get onto Bitcoin Twitter or Twitter at all until January 19. So I did a year and a half of just uh, pure sort of self-directed learning without the sort of aid of Bitcoin Twitter. And I have to say, Bitcoin Twitter, once you clock onto that, and I think memes like laser rays, etc., really help define the camps.
Yep.
And once you clock and lock on to the Bitcoin maxi um, Twitter, um, it's just pure signal, I think, more or less.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. You
It's
just, yeah,
pure hilarity, is what it is.
hilarity and just
That too.
dropping facts.
Yeah.
I appreciate you going off all internet things. I'm trying to do that. I always try and be on my phone less and less every day. I mean, it's
Mm.
hard, but and there's so much bad shit going on, and it's hard to be off. Like yeah, for this interview example, I'm like, oh, I should really dive deep into what this guy's done. I'm like, but also it's sunny outside. So I'm gonna go
Yeah,
spend some time with my 3 year old.
of
You
course.
know, it's tough, man. It's a very delicate balancing act of how much do I want to spend researching stuff on the internet and how much do I want to just enjoy my life.
Hmm. But listen, I think that's really important, because all of this for me is about living in accordance with my values. So I grew up in the countryside, on a hunt. You know, my parents, they had a hobby farm, but it was a hobby farm of 100 acres with 45 head of beef cattle, and my mum who taught herself to plow and sow, and um, while holding my dad holding down a Fiat job, etc. And I spent 15 years in Metropolis in London, as a songwriter producer, because that's where you get your opportunities. And one of the reasons that I grew disillusioned with not just the music industry but big city living, was that I found myself being pulled away from the values that I'd grown up with.
Mm.
And as a result, I was smoking myself into an oblivion. I was making music that I really didn't enjoy making or didn't believe in, but purely because that was the kind of money that or the kind of music, for Freudian slip, the kind of music that paid the bills. And so I had I realized at some point that I had to extricate myself from what I saw as a place of deteriorating values, before I was too badly affected myself. So my wife and we basically pulled the plug on what we were doing. We were both uh, published songwriters, um, and moved to the south of France, and set up our own little self-sufficient citadel in the middle of the forest. Um, you know, I I think it's really important, and I'm a very principled person because that's how I grew up. Um, Values are really important to me, because that's how I grew up, and I think that I was just sort of I was finding myself in the wilderness, really. ironically, in the wilderness, despite being in the big city. And
Yep.
it wasn't until we came out here that I really started seeing clearly. And it's no wonder that it was here that I discovered Bitcoin. As I told you guys earlier before we started recording, my wife and I, we tried for 7, 8 years to have kids while we were living in the big city. Tried IVF and traditional Chinese medicine, all sorts, and it never worked. And we came up to the forest, started drinking water from our spring, uh, growing our own food, um, all of these sort of things, and within very short time we had a beautiful, healthy, very, very well, incredibly happy and confident little boy.
Gosh,
Um, so
it's
this is
unbelievable, but it's also just so very believable. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
You do hear
It's
that a lot with especially in the maxi space. You hear people talking about this idea of getting back to, like that's the
mm,
I see that as a concept coming out a lot. This idea of getting off of, processed foods, getting away from cities, getting
mm,
back to nature, getting outside, turn off the compute. Like these seem to be concepts, which is interesting to me from like a, I don't know, it's just interesting to me in the sense that like we're all kind of in the maxi space bound because of technology, and yet we all at the same time really value the less technological aspects of life. Like
mm.
that's an important factor for a lot of us. So it's a curious thing for me to see that uh popping up again here in this interview. That's kind of cool.
yeah, it never stops. I mean, Bitcoin is just one tool that we needed to go back to living the way we wanted to live. And
Mm.
people spent their whole lives living a way they didn't want to live for a money that didn't work. And as soon as
Exactly.
that problem's solved, you don't have to live that way anymore. It's awesome. Love
It's
Bitcoin.
it's just as I see it, it's just all a search for truth.
Hmm.
And I grew up, as I said, with pure signal, like very solid um, home unit, and my parents were definitely low time preference people, even before well before I knew what low time preference even meant. My mum would never dream of having any kind of processed food in the house. Um, you know, um, so yeah, in many ways, I think it's a return to the norm, as you're hinting at. And to me, it all relates to fiat, and it all relates to the uh, you know coming off the gold standard, the kind of historically the closest we have come to representing our time, our labor, as money, and getting away from that. And I think there's this sort of um, insidious kind of knowledge that we were fighting inflation. So even if you weren't able to articulate it, even if you weren't sort of educated in any way like that, you kind of were aware that you were fighting against a deteriorating money. And we talk about culture being downstream from monetary policy, and politics being downstream from culture then. But so to me, this kind of competitive, nasty kind of incentive structure that people were reacting to um, meant that certainly in my industry, and maybe more so in the metropolis than in other places, but that you're kind of sharpening your elbows all the time. You're trying to see what you can claw back for yourself, rather than thinking about your life in a more meaningful, more uh, substantial and sustainable way. And so, yeah, I suppose everything that I do, and this is also what informed, um, trying to onboard my tenants, is that I just the only way I can be happy is by living in accordance with my values.
Absolutely, man. What a great thing to say. And if you're, yeah, absolutely. And if people's values are just to make money, then that's, which is what a lot of people's are. It's
Hmm.
just a terrible,
Well,
terrible life.
I think that's I don't want to I think the idea of I just want to make money, that isn't their value. That comes from an absence of value. You know,
Okay, yeah,
like
yeah.
I have nothing else to do, right? I have no other plan or goal with my life, so I'll make money. You know, I
Hmm.
think that's more of where that comes from because and I think we can all probably agree to this that having children really kind of puts a laser focus on what is important, you know, like for me it always has. I've always wanted kids since I was like 18 years old.
Same.
um
Yeah.
and so but having them, you know, it does it sort of good like just like yesterday, right? I'm trying to get some work done. I have a big project coming up here for my leather working, and um, I'm really trying to work and I'm trying to focus on it. And my 5 year old comes up like 4 or 5 times and just is like I'm, you know, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Where you're like you just want to get something done, and she's like, I need a glass of water or whatever. And then finally the fourth time comes up and I almost lose it, right? And she's
Mhm.
just like, I just want to hug you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, you're
Mhm.
right. I can take a breath. I can put this down. I should. You know, like there's like a wisdom that comes from your child when that happens, and so I kind of just tangented there. Sorry,
No,
but
absolutely. I mean, I was out with my kid today in the backyard, and like my leg hurts, so I want to sit on the chair. And he's like, "Oh, fill this bucket up with water. Let's throw it up in the air." And I'm like, "Oh, fine." Like I'll do it once, and then he's like, "Let's do it again." And I'm like, "Again?" And then you keep doing it, and you're like, "Oh, this is fun. Why am I not? Why am I complaining about my leg?" It's just having a 3-year-old is awesome. There is nothing better than having a kid in your life
I
to
really
agree.
remind you
isn't.
that like we're all just, I mean, I think a lot of people's mindsets, maybe I'll just speak for myself, is I just want to get whatever I'm doing done so I can go back to doing nothing.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's such a sad mindset to be in. And that's another thing Bitcoin reminds you. It's like just enjoy the task that you're doing. That's why you're living, so that you can do stuff.
Yep.
And people are racing to relax. It's like
I
when, and then you're relaxed and you're not enjoying it anyways.
mm. But I completely agree with all of that. But I think the point I was trying to make was that the fiat standard incentivizes a different type of thinking. So, um, if we had a money that wasn't deteriorating, um, but that was not, and that wasn't just holding its value, but a deflationary money that is going to keep on rising in value, um, we would think a lot differently, not just about how we store our time, but also about what we're doing. Right. All of a sudden, you can you can grow your wealth without having sharp elbows, without having to, you know, get in front of like a 15-20% asset inflation or whatever.
Yep.
I think that really informs or yeah incentivizes, even if you're not aware of it, what you do and how you live. And and yeah, I agree with you guys about kids. Like and I don't think this is just born out of us kind of waiting or being delayed and having kids for so long. I think it's just um, um, something I always wanted to do. But my focus now is just whatever I'm doing has to compete with, it has to be worth me not spending time with my wife and my son. So and obviously I admit this is born out of the privilege of not having to work. I've been fortunate in my professional life and what I've done with that. But um, and it's really only Bitcoin and friends that get a look in. Like my life is family and Bitcoin and friends.
In that order. Sometimes it
Probably,
changes.
yeah. And as
It's so true.
and as part of family
I'm
also
gonna
comes
tweet
sort
that.
of also comes kind of maintaining our citadel and doing things so we can live in a sovereign way. But there's just so many things that have been um, distorted and twisted, and the kind of ancient wisdom that we used to have as a society, the historic, I think a lot of people used to operate on gut instinct, that they were in touch with themselves and this sort of like direction that you give yourself through gut instinct. But somehow we've been cut off from nature, and this is why I think, not to go in down the COVID hole, but this is why I think we are finding ourselves in this kind of dire moment in history, because increasingly as a society over the decades, and a lot of Bitcoiners would say since 71, right? What the fuck happened in 1971?
Hmm.
Increasingly as a society, we have let a certain sort of scientism ring the changes of life, right? Um, Nature is more and more seen as like being entirely quantifiable, something that um, um, something material that can be measured, um, and in that sense, there's been a separation between us and our very nature.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
and
was just going to say that I think is the bigger issue, is that we are
mm,
now seen as outside of nature.
mm,
Humans are seen as not part of the process at all, and that I think is far more dangerous than anything else, because it's separate, like you said, it separates us from our values, which should
Yeah.
come from our environment. So
And it's not even that we're separate, it's that we're a problem to it. It's like humans are going to destroy nature, and no, nature's going to keep rolling whether we're here or not. You just got to go along for the ride, man.
and humans are going
And
to destroy nature because we think we take precedence over nature now, right? As you say, like
right.
we've come to this view that anything quantifiable or measurable is manageable, and that we can sort of manipulate nature to our immediate ends.
mm,
And you know there are lots of examples of this, like foreign species that have been introduced as sort of like predators into our biological system as pest control or whatever.
Right. Yep.
mm,
And this is why you have fucking Billy Goats talking about like spraying chalk or sand up into the
I
atmosphere to block
know.
out the sun. And
it's
you know
terrifying what that guy's
It's
doing.
horrifying.
The amount of farmland he just bought in the states is like,
exactly, and
oh,
the water reserves that he presides of and whatever, they're trying to grip nature, like hold nature hostage and particularize it in a way that um comes at a price. And I see the same thing with money. Like we thought that gold was nature, right? Gold was nature's money, God's money, as it's
mhm,
always been known, because it was what kind of represented time, our scarcest, most scarce
the scarcest we
commodity,
could get,
right?
yeah.
And
Right.
that was
Yep.
the thing we could find. That was the the closest, that had the closest sort of scarcity to time, right? We got rid of that because of sort of human arrogance and academics that thought that
And greed.
that
Yeah, I would argue more greed than anything else.
yeah, I agree, but I think that is sold. That greed is sold as kind of uh, academic word salad and all sorts of other things, right? They are that's how they make sense of it. And I think that this problem also has resulted in a dehumanization of people, particularly within the corridors of power, because all of a sudden it's not like nature. Anything that is quantifiable is measurable, anything or is manageable, right? And so, to quote, was it Stalin or Lenin? But one death is a tragedy, a million
Mm-hmm.
deaths are a statistic.
Yeah.
And so this has become the kind of philosophy, I think, of those in the ivory towers, and Bitcoin is stripping all of that shit away.
Yeah, takes the power away. It's awesome. Fuck them.
Yeah.
It's it's so yeah. I mean, and all these people living in this world that don't understand how much they really are. Their mindset is being controlled by somebody that's running the show. And once you just take one step back, look at the picture with like just look at the bigger picture. Realize what you've been doing with your life. I mean, in a more simplistic terms, here's a small story. Where I used to live, there was lakes all around us, around the Toronto area. So I wanted to go for a drive and go just walk around a lake. And every lake we like drove up to, you'd find it on the Google Maps GPS or whatever. You'd go there and there'd be a gate, and you'd have to pay $12 to go into the forest. And I was like, okay, we're not going to go here. I'll just go find another one. And there was like a dozen of them. Everywhere you went, you had to pay. It's like, who am I paying this $12 to go walk in the trees with my kid? Uh, Once I started seeing that pop up here and there, I knew that was one of the things for me that I knew something was seriously wrong with the world if we're paying to go for walks in the forest. And that's just what I mean. That's a fiat mindset for sure.
Mm.
People think, oh, this will be nice to enjoy the day. How much is it going to cost to go outside?
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
what? What?
It's. I mean, and the closer or the further you get down the rabbit hole, it becomes more and more apparent to me, at least, that fiat, again, culture downstream from monetary policy, right? That it affects everything. Like, um, sort of like we've become a sort of hedonistic culture, like we've all I believe, and this is sort of Peterson way of thinking as well, right? That there's a human kind of need in us as a species to make sense of the world, and a sort of desire for a moral kind of gravity, um, and there is a sort of religious impulse, I think, intrinsic to human beings, and that we also have lost, right? And I'm not religious in any sort of orthodox way, um, but I can see that this spot in our beings, and that has always been there, is now completely empty. And I think this is why people, they gravitate towards other things that kind of become um,
Just to fill the hole.
a religion, a replacement. Yeah, exactly. Like whether that is kind of hedonism, or whether that is wokeism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Or
Political
critical race
beliefs.
theory, or any of these things that is just. And I think that's also why we're seeing this real tribalism and entrenchment um, in society. And yeah, I think that this is what Bitcoin also fixes, right? um, Religion, I think, is it Latin? I think it's means reconnection, um, and I think that is what Bitcoin provides, right? It's a reconnection to um, our very nature as humans,
Mm-hmm.
um, to time itself, to each other, to our value, to our moral gravity, right? Bitcoin is this sort of lighthouse for humanity.
I agree. Me and Doug and I have had a few conversations about religion, spirituality, and all these things. And although there's a lot of different ways people can, a lot of different religions to believe in, but at the end of the day, I think it all just means looking at life as more than just yourself and your ego. As long as you're not trapped in living just for your own physical gains and you're just your own mindset and you're more interactive with what's going on in the world and the universe around you, then you're going to find a better life. One
Mm.
that isn't so depressed all the time, or even if when bad things happen, you're okay with them because bad things are supposed to happen and you learn from them.
Hmm.
And that's another thing Bitcoin helps with. Like when your head is so in the dirt trying to just scramble on to make more and more money, you have no time to just take a pause, look at the world around you and enjoy it, and no matter what it brings. So yeah, I definitely agree that I mean, Bitcoin solves everything, man.
But also coming back to sort of like personal responsibility and sort of another Peterson kind of thought is yeah, it's about connection to people around us and to living for more than ourselves. But also it's just like clean your room, as Peterson says, right?
Yep.
Like make sure that you live in alignment with your values. Make sure that you live connected to your own nature, um, and then everything grows from there. I think.
Mhm.
Jeff, have you read 12 Rules for Living?
No, I
I've,
haven't. I've got a laundry list of books
yeah,
I gotta
okay.
read, man.
I
It's
was just wondering.
brutal.
So, yeah, I can't agree with you more on that one. I You're talking about how Peterson, the God-shaped hole kind of concept, which I've I am Christian and I am unabashedly so, and I
Hmm.
have no problem saying that.
Hmm.
And I have noticed it's interesting that there does seem to be a very evangelical parallel between Christianity and Bitcoin, and I'm not trying to conflate the two at all. I
Hmm.
just find it interesting because I find myself using the same kind of words, same kind of verbiage when I'm talking about proselytizing to people or whatever, when I'm trying to conceptualize what we're doing as Bitcoiners. We're trying to get out to the masses and talk to people, and I use I've said to Jeff several times, like, this is like the ark, man. Like, we see the floods coming, and we got to get as many people on board. And um, so I do think it's interesting. And one of the things I wanted to comment on what you're saying there is that this God-shaped hole. I'm pretty sure it was Pascal that came up with the concept. And what he said, if I recall correctly, was it gets filled whether you like it or not.
Hmm.
The space inside you that is meant for a spiritual side, if you don't want to look at it from a God top down kind of thing, there is a space inside of you for spirituality, for an otherness. It's just innate in the building of the human mind and soul and body. And it will get filled with something. And so if you choose to let the state fill it up, then you're going to become a statist. You're going to be, but if you choose to, whatever it is, whatever you fill that hole with, that's what you're going to get. And I think we have a problem right now in the sense that too many people have let others fill them, or let the state fill them, or whatever. And I don't know how to extract them from that. I mean, and you talk about COVID, you see it now, in the States here. The CDC said this week that if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. And all of these people are out on social media virtue signaling about how, well, I'm going to wear a mask anyways. And it's like, what? How
But
do
more,
you?
but more than that, just not trusting their God-given immune system,
Oh, yeah. I
right?
mean, that's not,
Well,
yeah, not even to
you
speak to
can
that,
go,
right?
yeah, you can go down a lot of different paths here, but yeah, the people that just want to keep wearing the masks to prove that they're, I don't know, morons. I don't know. Congratulations, you're great at following rules. I don't get
Right.
it, man.
But yeah, I think I absolutely agree with all of that, and I think it comes back to this. We have an evolutionary kind of drive and need to believe in something like beyond this sort of mundane, the mundane
Existence.
aspects of life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, to make sense of our existence and how to, like, okay, so a kid. I've always had this philosophy that the kids should know their place. And that sounds really, really Victorian. And I don't mean it in a Victorian sense. But I think all of us need to know our place
Yep.
because otherwise we're drifting. Right.
Right.
Um, my son, he's got an incredible amount of freedom, but within a very defined, within very defined boundaries. He knows what's okay and what is not okay. He knows what is expected of him. Where I see a lot of even friends that are doing all this sort of woke parenting, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't see happy kids.
No, and that's the incredible thing that I don't think anyone who's not a parent can understand that. But the idea of you cannot let your child run like a wildling. Like
Mm,
they are miserable when they're like that, and they're acting horrible and doing things like hitting each other or hitting their sister or breaking stuff. They're telling you, I need
hmm
order in my life. I need
hmm
organization. Like even you're right, from a very early age, we are I mean, the happiest when I've had 5 kids, so the happiest my babies ever were was when we had a good routine.
mm,
If the baby went to bed at a certain time every night and was fed at certain periods of the day every day, that was when things went the smoothest. It was when that got out of whack that all of a sudden the kid just couldn't organize. It couldn't, you know what I
hmm
mean? It's innate. It's absolutely
hmm
innate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
scheduling, organization, very important. But that's good for any. It doesn't just for kids, but also just for for us grown-ups as well. We are also losing our minds if we don't have a scheduled
Right,
or
but
at
I think
least
that's Batter's
organized
point,
life.
though. And
Yeah,
tell me if I'm wrong, Batters, but I think your point is the idea that if you look at what like the basic human needs are, just look at a child and it will tell you. You like that you can extrapolate, what an adult kind of needs from that. Not
exactly,
one to one, but
mhm.
exactly. I think that that is my point, um, and we maybe we kind of, yeah, I don't know. I think that if you're wandering aimlessly, that can never be a good thing,
Yeah,
and you need to have a reason and a drive and a kind of destination. Um, you have to have, you know, i-
a
i-
goal.
w- yeah, and we have gravity, right? We have laws of the universe, and I think moral gravity is part of that. That's another kind of more uh, human specific kind of force, and oh, now it's a dog. Hey, dog. Um, and yeah, and I think that's. I mean, is it any wonder that we're seeing so many diseases of despair? Right? I mean, people
oh, I
they
know.
they just
And that's why
don't.
this COVID thing, and I'm just gonna rant for a second, and
Yeah,
I don't
go.
even apologize, but this COVID thing is pure evil to me in that sense, because not only have we for the last 50 years have we tried to unanchor people from any sort of moral grounding, but now in the last year we've separated everyone from each other too, so you don't even have that. You have literally forced an entire planet to spin wildly out of control because we have no morals, we're cooped up inside, we can't even communicate effectively with one another.
Mhm,
And the idea of just just shaking hands or hugging each other, that the governments of the world are now going to tell us when we can or can't do that, the most basic of human contact. It's appalling to me that people are uh,
trying
tolerating
it.
this.
I agree, man.
I agree. Yeah, it's sad because it's all driven by fear, and people are like, "Oh, you're just." it's hard to say it to people. I have some people in my life that are really deep down on the wrong side of the COVID story. And it's like you're just being driven by fear, and what you're scared of is nothing to be scared of. And like, again, I think it comes back to the money, because all these people are like, well, once world goes back to normal, we can all go back to our jobs and back to making money and back to being happy. It's like, but if you just work for yourself, like Batter, like you say, you don't need anybody to tell you when you can work. You can just do whatever the hell you want. But these people are so controlled by somebody else that they don't want to take the responsibility, like you said, that self responsibility, to say, oh, I'm going to choose to provide for myself and my family, or I'm going to choose to sit at home and wait around until somebody tells me it's safe outside. It's it's a real issue going on, and it's only dividing people further and further, because even just saying, like, it seems like we're all three of us on the same page, but you come to this opinion with anybody on the other side, they don't even hear it. They can't
No.
hear it. It's
And I do want to
absolutely
be clear.
infuriating.
I do want to be clear. It's not that I don't believe that the Rona exists,
No,
because I do,
exactly.
because I've had it. Like, I've survived it. And I don't want to even intone that for some people it can't be dangerous, because I think that there's very clearly a subset of the population that doesn't want to mess with it because it's bad news for them. If you're overweight or you're over the age of 80, you probably need to be very cautious, and that's fine, because we've always had diseases like that are, and honestly, it's kind of odd because this one doesn't follow the pattern. Usually the pattern is a disease will affect the very young and the very old. That is generally how it works. And this one doesn't seem to affect the very young hardly at all. And that's always confused me. It's always been very, let's just say, my more aluminum foil tin hat kind of brain starts to work with that one. But I just want to
Well,
I just want to make it clear that I'm not saying I don't think it exists. I'm saying I'm just appalled at what we've allowed people to do in the name of protecting people. That is the problem I have with it.
well, again, we're back to losing touch with nature, right? And thinking that that we can outsmart nature in some sort of way. And to go back to the kind of analogy of raising a child, um, I have seen within my own family, not immediate family, but further out, real mollycoddling of kids, right? Who are now
Hold
grown
on,
men.
define that. What is it? Modi call? What is it?
Mollycoddling. I don't know
Molly.
if that's a particularly British word, but like kind of
Molly.
protect. In Denmark, they call it curling parenting.
Okay.
Like you're trying to brush out all the imperfections in the ice in front of
We
them.
would call
They
that
can't have
helicopter parenting.
Yeah,
helicopter
that's right.
parenting is
Helicopter. Okay.
another good word for it. But
Gotcha.
this is I've seen what that does. Like I know grown men that are fucking useless who can hardly operate in this modern world and take
That's
care of
true.
themselves
Yeah.
because they have always had everything taken care of for them out of
Hmm.
love and good intentions and all that
Yeah.
stuff. I don't doubt their intentions, but it just creates useless people. And useless, I use that in a loose sense. Obviously they have value. I'm not but where they find life
No,
a
they're useless to
struggle.
themselves.
Exactly. And this is what I think is another part of the problem. The state has gotten so big, and I'm speaking as a recovering sort of champagne socialist metropolitan person,
We've
because
all been there. Yeah.
I was
when
never there, just for the record.
no, good for you, man. But that was
Pat
kind of
yourself on the back.
Damn
part of
right.
my earlier life. And but the state has become so big and all encompassing. People are relying on the state for permission for fucking everything, right?
Yep.
They're always looking to like daddy state to say what is all right to do, how do I live, how do I make money, and these sort of things. And so yeah, again, it's a complete separation of us from our very nature. And
Mm. Just the human existence has gone on a major brake pedal for the last generation, I think. And we're just, if it wasn't for Bitcoin, I think it would have kept going down a really,
That
really bad path. I
that
really
is a
do think
scary
that.
thought. What do you think about that, Batters? The idea of where we would be if we didn't have Bitcoin right now.
Ah, fuck. I would be
Yeah.
personally. I would not have very much hope at all right now. I have to say.
Mhm.
I
And
see.
I think there are a lot of people, a lot of maxis especially, that would um, echo that sentiment 100%.
Yeah. I mean,
I know Jeff would.
Yeah, dude. I was a complete nihilist for the majority of my life, and
Yeah.
I still struggle with, like, even now when I see, all the FUD, I'm like, oh man, we're not gonna make it. Bitcoin's our last hope, but we still might not make it. I'm trying to stay positive, but damn, if we
Hey,
didn't have
man.
Bitcoin.
Life. It's a struggle at times, and sometimes it's difficult to kind of see clearly, and that's even for the strongest among us. That's sometimes the case. Um, I see some serious coordinated authoritarian initiatives
Mm-hmm.
that is happening throughout the world, and I think attacking it from first principles. I'm no longer one to just try to confirm my biases like I was sometimes guilty of in the past. I really try to, and even throughout this last 14, 15 months, I have gone from early February 2020 thinking, fuck, I need to buy a mask, I need to stock up, but mainly thinking this is going to crash the markets because I had been looking, like many Bitcoiners and Austrians, looking for a black swan event, and I just like, this is it. And there was such a lack of information that I was just like, okay, until I know what's going on here, I'm just going to take precautions. I have a, a baby to take care of. Now I am pretty convinced, and you have to really, it's a delicate subject. You have to watch out who you kind of really let rip to. But I feel like this is a coordinated attack on humanity and individual freedoms, um, predicated on the money being ruined and them realizing that they're losing control, them seeing global unrest building up, realizing that they can't kick the can down the road for much longer. And how do we keep and grow our stake in in a global monetary reset while staying out of the guillotines?
Yeah, exactly.
And this is what I think is happening. This is why I think that they want to bring in digital ID in form of vaccine passports.
Gov coins. Did you see the Gov coins
GovCoins.
things?
Yeah,
Yeah.
God.
and
Terrifying.
Batters,
I do.
do you
Yeah,
ever watch Dave Cullen, Computing Forever?
I know Dave
Okay.
Collum.
Dave Cullen, yeah, Cullen.
Okay, no, I
Um,
thought you were talking about the organic chemist.
no, I'm not that fancy.
I thought you were talking about Edward
No,
Cullen.
he's an Irishman that he had a YouTube channel. They actually kicked him off, so I think you can find him on
Oh, is he
what's
the
the other?
ginger chap?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. I have seen
Oh,
a few of his
okay. Yeah,
videos. Yeah.
he's excellent on exactly what you're talking about. He's done some really good interviews with really intelligent people. So I'm just kind of bringing it up for anybody interested out there. What is the platform that isn't YouTube that ever a bit
BitChute.
no BitChute? There it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's on
yeah,
BitChute.
yeah.
So look him up. He's pretty excellent. Again, this is for me. This podcast is kind of like a tribute kind of to his style of for me. I want the information out there. So uh, yeah, he's great on that. And I can't. I really have a hard time finding any holes in your theory because you start to look at everything and you go, why? You just start to ask why,
Exactly.
and there has to, you got okay, and I'm just going to have to use my American perspective here, right? You look at these people that are last year the United States printed 20% of every dollar it's ever printed. Okay, 20%. That's literally the fact that woke me up to everything, because you just can't do that. And these people are supposed to be the smart people. These are supposed to be the guys that know how to handle this stuff. And I'm sitting here, in my little, my little place in the middle of the country, and I'm going, you can't just print 20% of your entire, monetary. You just can't do that.
Yeah.
And then you go, well, why would they do that? And then you start to look at all of these connected pieces and you go, yeah, this does feel a lot more, lack of a better term, sinister than anything else. And it is a, to me, the I guess, to kind of circle back, the biggest question I have now is, why have they let Bitcoin get so far down the road? Like, this clearly is a threatening thing to them. So
Well,
why would
I think they've completely underestimated it. I think no
you think
one has
so?
taken it serious. Yeah, and I think they're ramping up the FUD. The energy FUD now coming out. There have been a couple of cyber attacks now. Obviously, Klaus Schwab, he's anal swab. He's been
God, I hate that guy.
warning us of these cyber attacks, and these cyber attackers, they want to be paid in Bitcoin.
Yep.
I think we're going to see a bit more of that. But
Yeah, it's gonna get bad. The FUD is gonna get so real. I think all of Bitcoin Twitter is like, all right, this is it. The classic thing is, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win, and
exactly, and I
we've
think that
passed.
will happen.
I think so too. I think me and Doug skipped the ignore. I think we caught the tail end of the laughing, and I think the fight is really, really about to start ramping up. So
I'm still hopeful that I still think that they got this. I think you can't underestimate the arrogance of those in the ivory towers.
True.
And but yeah, I mean, my wife is incredibly based. She is a bit of a polymath, and she's also heavily into the bit or far down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. But she also did a degree in when she gave up songwriting. She did a degree in um, genetics, evolutionary biology, virology, and these sort of things.
Oof.
And this past year, she has done. I think she has. She's. I think she's done more than 400 now peer-reviewed scientific papers on
Wow.
everything to do with COVID that she has dissected, and is basically writing what amounts to a book, citing all of these different papers. And there is so much scientific evidence that that supports our worst fears, I think. And but the thing I keep coming back to is, start at first principles. This is a virus, flu virus, with a recovery rate of 99.97%, whatever.
I think it's 9.8 now, man. It's going up.
9.8, right? Depending on our age range, right? The average age for adults, without the Rona, I think is something like 80 years old, and the average life expectancy for people that die from corona is 82 years old.
Yep.
Right. So there's some like basic underlying facts that just don't justify vaccinations for entire populations.
Vaccinations for 12-year-olds, man.
Oh, it's scary.
What?
It's so
What?
fucking criminal.
It,
Um,
and
yeah,
we need to stop using the word vaccination. Let's just.
yeah,
I'm going to be.
yeah.
I mean, it's not a vaccination.
No.
It's an
So
experimental
they say
procedure.
injections. That the injection sounds as scary or whatever as this should sound.
Yep. Yep.
Just
But
for anybody listening, all three of us have gone into putting our tinfoil hats on to make sure we're safe.
well, y-
It's brutal though, man.
but
It's
you
all
say
so.
you say
No,
that, and we find ourselves saying this, right?
I
Almost
know.
apologizing, or it's a bit like a fat person making fat jokes, right?
Yeah,
You know that people are going to think it, so you get there before them, right? But
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
this is not based on like airy fairy shit. This is like based um, on on
No,
on on
on
ancient wisdom
facts.
and science and
Yeah,
facts,
it's
Right.
right?
just
This is
and
not the X
truth.
Files, folks. This is
It's
not
just
the
Yeah,
X
truth.
Files.
It's just truth.
and what is so dangerous is that it has been politicized so much, like and whatever you think of Donald Trump, he was right about a lot of these things.
Yep.
I think he's an odious cretin as a man,
Oh, that's a
but
good word. I don't know
but
what that word is.
but but because it was him that was saying like um, uh, ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine were
Yep.
good, possible treatments, all of a sudden that is seen as a lie, right? And so my wife, she finds these peer-reviewed studies that they did for both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine in relation to COVID, and she finds out that the reason that they came to the conclusion that it doesn't work, that is not effective treatment, is because they threw the study. They basically overdosed
Yep. Is this the Brazilian one?
people by 10 times.
Yeah. I, I
Uh,
think that was the South American trials that they were doing.
there, it happened in a couple of different places, but yeah, I
Does it?
believe
Okay.
part
All
of
right.
it was in South America. So why are they doing this, right? It's because otherwise, if there's any kind of existing treatment, you might probably know this already. So excuse me if I'm stating the obvious, but the reason that they are throwing these trials is because if there's any kind of existing treatment, they can't get their emergency use license.
Right.
And so without an emergency use license, they can't distribute their vaccines. And this is why they're going to continue to lock us down. Because if
Yeah.
they don't have emergency measures put in place, then there can be no more mandate
Well,
for
and
or
I
no
mean,
more
and
license to distribute a emergency use only vaccine.
right. And beyond that, I mean, if somebody doesn't want to follow that rabbit hole, let's say, just look at the numbers, just follow the math, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can't make money on an over-the-counter drug
Mm-hmm.
because it's you just can't. But I think I read Pfizer has already made something like 3 billion off the vaccinations.
I think it is way more than that.
Is it? I mean,
Well, Bill
at a
Gates.
certain point, right? All the numbers just sort of blur together. It's a
Yeah.
lot of damn money, is what it
Well,
is.
Bill Gates, he personally bragged about having made 22 billion already personally from his vaccine investments. But see, I
Speaking
think
of guillotines,
the money is just part of this incentive structure, right? For the big technocrats or for the big companies, there is a monetary incentive. For the governments, there is a
yep,
governing incentive, right? We have an unrestful or whatever population. Um, Basically, you can use this to kind of quell, get more government power, all of these sort of things. But as I see it, between the WEF and the UN and the WHO and maybe the CCP, probably the CCP and the Bank of International Settlements and the IMF and whatever, they get, well, their play, I think, is to get us on this credit score system, right? And they need the vaccine passports for that, and they need the central bank digital currencies um,
to
to
enforce it. Yeah.
enforce that other side, right? Yeah, and so yeah, I see that as being the driver for all of this. It just happens that all of the people that they need to put those plans in place are incentivized by other things.
And I want to take a pause for 1 second. I just want to say to everybody listening to this, you can listen to matters here and you can think that we're all just batshit crazy, and that's fine. But I would challenge you to just start look at what we're saying and just investigate it at the very least. Um, and if you still come to the conclusion we're batshit crazy, okay, that's fine. Then leave in the comments, tell us why. But you got to start looking at this stuff, guys. It's really important, because it is interconnected. I do agree with Batters on that. I don't think these things are just all happening in this weird vacuum by themselves. This does seem coordinated I mean, just this week, and we can maybe just segue right into dunk on a no coiner or something. But just this week, all of the sudden, you get Elon like doubling and tripling down on the energy FUD, which everybody who is even remotely smart about this understands. And for those that are out there that haven't caught up yet, the argument is that Bitcoin uses up too much energy and it's bad for the environment as such. And this is said by a man. Let's just be real clear. This is said by a man who, quote unquote, produces green cars that run on the exact same energy that Bitcoin uses, and then routinely launches rockets into the air and brings them back down. Like, that's what he does for fun on the weekends. So, and let's not even go into his private jet usage, whatever,
And
like
not to mention the crazy amounts of lithium mining for batteries that are destroying this earth, right?
exactly.
And the fossil fuels that it takes to uh, not just create the cars, not just to run the cars, but also to break down the cars afterwards.
Right.
Um,
The whole thing coming from Elon is a joke, honestly. And for him to do that, and then we've got the pipeline in the South of America here that they just paid off these attackers. I used to think that America had a policy of we don't negotiate with terrorists. Like, that's what all the movies say, right? But yeah, they just paid him off, and it's in Bitcoin. That's so
oh,
crazy, like
yeah.
all of these things just start happening, and it's really hard to not once you start looking at it through a certain lens, it really is hard to unsee it, I guess, is
That's
my point.
that's what I was saying earlier, is that for us on this side, you can see, so like even in his statement, what he said was Tesla's not going to accept Bitcoin for payment for cars anymore. They're not but they explicitly said we're not selling any of our Bitcoin. We're holding on to that.
Right.
All they did was remove the ability to pay for a car with
Mhm.
Bitcoin. That's it. And for
Right.
some reason, people freaked out about that. Tesla's still going to keep holding Bitcoin. Elon for sure is going to keep holding Bitcoin, but I think it goes further than him. I think it goes more to the corporate legality and whoever's in charge of that, and they have to say certain things to appease certain
Well, no, I can
people.
tell you what it is. It's more than that. I was watching BTC sessions last night, and they had Max Kaiser on, and he's talking about how essentially Tesla is not a car company. When you look at it, what they've been doing to make their billions is they were getting environmental credits from the government, and then they were basically reselling those. They were allowed to sell them because they're such a green company. They get all these credits, I guess, or whatever. I don't know exactly how the system works, but they were making their money off of selling these green energy credits to other companies that needed them to, quote unquote, offset their production. And apparently, a major buyer of these credits announced recently, I don't know when, that they weren't going to do it anymore, which is something like a
Yeah,
1.2 billion hit to Tesla or something like that. That's where this comes from, is that
yeah.
and so now he's trying to kind of ingratiate himself into the government somehow to get more credit. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it was, but this came from somewhere. This is, I mean,
Okay,
I think
this is
there are lots of aspects to it, right? There's also
right.
subsidies. He's looking to get more subsidies and all sorts of other things. But yeah, fuck Elon, man. I no, honestly, we definitely take a shit on him right now. But there are plenty of no coiners to dunk on. If I can just also just make a quick comment for those who think that all of this is crazy and dreamt up or whatever. my framing is this for a lot of the entropy that we're seeing at the moment. You were talking about 20. I've also seen 25% of the monetary base being expanded by in this last year. Um, you know, that's going to have to keep on going because
They've hit the tipping point for sure. They can't
exactly.
stop.
So my framing is this: we are witnessing the fall of Rome,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, there have been plenty of other currencies in modern history, even that have hyperinflated. Not that we're maybe quite hyperinflating yet, but I think this is possibly the very early doors of it. But never has it been the global reserve currency, not since Rome. And you know about Bretton Woods,
Mm-hmm.
44 global economies pegging to the dollar, who were then pegged to gold. So the whole world, more or less, the developed world, were on this pseudo gold standard, which the whole world then came off in 71 when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. So since then, they've been able to print money willy-nilly, and that's caught up now, right? 2008 was the first serious indication that something was very, very wrong, and they have just been printing and easing and doing whatever they could to kind of keep the economy stable. Since then, it's caught up with them. Um, the fall of Rome resulted in the Dark Ages, right? I don't think we can imagine the kind of entropy that can um, that can unfold from seeing the global empire, the ruling empire, the global currency fall. And I think that this is what is that's resulting in all this crazy shit that we're seeing now. And I use this analogy. I think what they are performing right now is a controlled demolition.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I would
So
tend
they
to agree
see
with
That's
that.
exactly what's happening.
they see the building is crumbling. They know the roof is going to cave in at some point. They don't know exactly when. They know that when that happens, people will realize basically the game is going to be up.
Yep.
So they are trying to take this down, control demolition, with the evidence still left inside the building, right? And out of those ruins, the IMF, they were already talking about this pre-Christmas. They were saying we needed a Bretton Woods 2.0. We needed a new um, global monetary reset. And Klaus Schwab, he's talking about the global reset, etc. Build back better, all these bollocks, and so they want to build another system entirely like the old one. They want to extend this scam that they have had going for decades. This
Well, it's
time
worked
they
for
just
them. Why
want
wouldn't they?
exactly, and this time they just want to do it with all of these elements of control that they now have through technology.
Yep.
But they need us. They need us onboarded. They need us to get us those IDs, etc., etc., before they actually push the
Yeah,
button for
it's
their big
all.
explosion.
Yeah, it's all of this, and this is why. This is what drives me nuts. Is that's where you realize the people in charge, they've never really cared about the money. They don't care about being rich per se. I think they've always cared more about the power because the solution they're looking for, oh no, the economy is collapsing, everything's gonna fall to shit, everybody's gonna be broke. The solution's here. The solution is Bitcoin. As
Mhm.
if everybody adopts Bitcoin, the world will prosper. There's no doubt in my mind. But these
Mhm.
people that are grabbing it, holding on to control for as long as possible, for reasons I don't understand. I mean, I don't get all the people that have all the fiat currency that are very, very, very wealthy in fiat terms. They could just transfer that into Bitcoin and still have loads and loads of Bitcoin, and then they're done. But
Yeah,
rather
but
than
like you
doing
said, it's
that,
not about fiat and currency for
I
them. It's
know
about
they just
power.
want the power, and it's frustrating.
And that is because that God-shaped hole we talked about earlier, they filled it with power. That is their God. That is where they find
Mm,
their center as a human being. And
yeah.
they can't imagine a world where they're not in power. That's
Mhm.
scary to them. Like that's genuinely terrifying to them.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So you're never going to get them to step back from that position. They're just not
Mhm.
going to do it. And they're going to fight tooth and nail. And I guess we see who wins, right? Does humanity win or does the power monger win? I don't know. At this
Mhm.
point, I'm kind of, I'm,
That's
I
that's
don't
where
even
I'm at.
necessarily give humanity, fighting odds at this point, honestly, just from what I've seen.
That's where I come from, and it's just like the only way to, I mean, as an individual, as three individuals or whoever's listening to this, you can't take them down. All you can do is just say, "Yeah, I'm not playing this game anymore.
Well,
I don't care about what you're doing. Just opt
uh,
out."
that's the key, I think. Stop the game. And the game is, and now we're full circle back to why you the tweet from why you guys invited me on. This is why I started with the Bitcoin standard and educating yourself, because their power comes from their exorbitant privilege, their seniorage, um, and you should look into, if you're new to Bitcoin, look into the Cantillon effect, for example.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
we've
definitely.
spoke
All,
about that a little bit before.
yeah, all of those closest to the spigot of money, they have the power to create money as they see fit. To go to wars, to to do all these vanity projects, whatever. Without the power of printing money, neither governments, central banks, or those, the primary dealers and whoever else, hedge funds that are closest to the spigot of money, won't be able to have that fuel in their rockets anymore. And that's what Bitcoin does. And this is why I think my view is this, is that I think it's very likely that this could be um, some really quite difficult years coming up. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. But Bitcoin is anti fragile like nothing else. Bitcoin is like nature, right? You try to concrete over a piece of land and then see how long it can resist grass coming through,
Dude,
right?
that's a good analogy, man. I that's another okay, I have a bunch of steps in my steps to becoming a Bitcoin maximalist that I've noticed that I went through and then I've seen other people go through. And one
Mm.
of the phases is just spitting out as many analogies as possible. Like, dude, you don't understand. Bitcoin's like water. Bitcoin's like the sun. Bitcoin is like nature or concrete over grass. That's a good one. I'm gonna store that one in my back pocket. That's a beautiful analogy. Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Well, it's just, and I think that you could say the same thing about humanity, right? I think you can stifle humanity for so long, but history shows that you can only stifle it for so long. And yes, they have technology now. They can track us, they can surveil us, whatever. But all that it takes is for everyone to rise up and say, "I am Spartacus," right? And
Hmm.
there isn't going to be any technology that can hold them back. And so I think it's going to be challenging. Unfortunately, I don't know why this is not really really obvious to everyone by now. Um, right? A couple of weeks ago, um, there was a march in London, like there was many other places in the world, like there is today again. I think it was reported up to towards like 750,000 marching through London. The BBC didn't give it any coverage.
Yeah, they bury
Nope.
it.
Right. I think there are going to be lots of moments like that, um, y- playing out in different ways, where more and more people are going to go, "What are they? what is it that they're doing?
Hmm.
Like, this is not right. And unfortunately, I think it's going to take a long time for the statists to really realize it.
Hmm.
But it will happen. And
Yeah.
also, um, back to Bitcoin, um, they can't stop Bitcoin. They just can't
No, it's
stop
true.
No,
Bitcoin.
they can't. They can't stop
That's
Bitcoin,
true.
baby.
And
Okay.
as soon as Bitcoin um, takes away that senior, it's over printing the money. It's game over, and then we're into sovereign individual territory. But yeah,
Okay.
I'll
We're
Yeah.
stop
getting
there.
there. It's a beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I like that. I think we hit a lot of great topics here. This was a
Yeah.
really fun episode for me, man.
Yeah, this has been pretty good, man. So, um, let's wrap up here. Batters, real quick. If you would go, drop your links or whatever.
Anywhere, anything you'd
Yeah.
like to promote or anything like that?
Um, well, so um, yeah, I mean, you can find me on Twitter with the handle hodler than thou, and that's kind of a reference to my holier than thou um, so champagne socialist past. And my DMs are always open. I love to chat and love to be involved in projects. Um, I'm also a part of 21ism. We are um, basically a collective. At the moment, we're putting out a sort of zine, um, but we consider ourselves part of the sound culture renaissance. We think that art and creativity is one of the Trojan horses that is needed in uh, global adoption of Bitcoin. And so, what we do in 7 different categories: um, art, product design or design, video, memes, um, code, and music. Oh, I'm leaving something out, and writing as well. We feature various creative Bitcoiners. Um, we've had lots of people on, from Gigi to um, Nicholas Dorier to um, Dim Zion. Lots of great people. Um, and so that's something we're building and very passionate about. 21ism.com. Lots of great writing, lots of great stories. We also do a podcast interview with all of our guests. Um, and we are building other platforms as part of that. It's a little early to reveal too much, but we are building very ambitiously in the background. And next block that we are doing, so we always drop on the 5th of every month, because we were our sort of Genesis block was on the 5th of November, Guy Fawkes night.
Ah,
Um,
nice.
and so our next block on the 5th of June, we got Lucio Poletti, a prolific Bitcoin artist. We have Fun Staying Poor, Pour, which is a Scottish chap that we are working with. We have partnered up to do a cask of Genesis block whiskey. So it's a beautiful cask of cask strength single malt Ardmore whiskey that was distilled on the 3rd of January 2009. Um,
You're
and
making me
we
thirsty.
are and we are dropping that as a obviously very limited whiskey, but we're also dropping 21 bottles that have been hand painted by 7 different Bitcoin artists in the space. And in the music block, we are featuring Zuby,
Nice.
who's got a new album coming out. Um, Robert Breedlove is writing us a bespoke piece,
Oh God,
and
can't
we're
get enough of
interviewing
that
him.
guy.
Paul from Sphinx is going to be on.
Very
It's
cool.
basically going to, yeah, we just love telling the stories of Bitcoiners, but from a sort of focus of creativity and what they're bringing to the space.
You got Greg on there in the meme space. Fuck that
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. He
Fuck Greg.
Greg is on Greg is on this month, and yeah, check it out. There's I'm really really proud of what we're doing, and we are building, as I say, very ambitiously behind the scenes.
Nice. Good stuff, man. Well, we appreciate that. Yeah, definitely check out 21ism 21 numbers and then ism.com for all that cool stuff. Uh, okay, we're gonna Doug, should we do a price check?
No, you know what? Let's not. Honestly, that was
You're
price
sick
just
of the
seems.
price.
No, it just seems so silly to me
It,
right now
it is
compared to
silly.
everything we
It's a
I
silly
know,
podcast,
I
Doug.
know.
We
All right,
gotta be silly.
you want to do a price check real quick?
Listen, batters. We added the price check in because you know what? It brings people that don't know what Bitcoin is. They get excited about the price.
Hey
As
man,
any
everyone loves NGU tech. I mean,
exact
I'm not beyond that. I'm not above that. I'm
right on.
looking at my, as I said, I've got this beautiful Voltage Goat Bitcoin ticker that I bought. Voltage Goat, they are featured in our design block this month.
Nice.
It's a stunning thing. So yeah, I love looking at love looking at the price.
Okay,
Go
so
on.
what we do with it is Doug and I both make a guess every week, and our guest is welcome to make a guess. Our guest is welcome to make a guess as well for the price, and then we assign scores. They're very technically tracked on who's winning and who has more points. So last week, Doug, you want to let us know what our
Yeah,
scores were?
so we're at 47,927 right now as of this recording. It's a Saturday. Um, Jeff won hands down, so this is like 2 in a row, I think, for you now.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah. Because you went with the 58,000. I
I
was at
went
62.
58,000. I went
But then
58,000 even.
fucking Elon happened. Fuck that
It's
guy.
fine, man. It's
I
fine.
know. I'm not really upset about the price. I just, again, you start to look at all this stuff and you go, this is kind of mission critical, like every stumbling block that we run into, it's not about the price for me at this point. It's about how many people are taking Elon seriously and not getting into the space as a result. Like he set the movement back, I guess is the term I would have to use. Anyways,
The dips are important.
He's a
This
cunt.
is a this is a good point. He's a cunt. This is a point for new people to be like, oh, wait a second, I was waiting for a dip. This is it, man. So grab on now if you're listening. There's never been
yeah,
a better time.
go. I mean, I bought the dip. I'm not upset about it from that perspective. It's just, again. Anyways, all right. So that's
Okay.
where we're at. Jeff is, I think it's like 5-2 now or something like that. So
17
you're coming
episodes in, 5 to 2.
17, 16,
The
17
math
episodes in.
ran the numbers. It checks out. Yeah.
So anyways, let's take 30 seconds. We'll write down our guesses for next week's episode.
Batter.
And
go ahead
we'll
and
go
write
from
down a
there.
guess if you'd like. Let's see.
Hmm.
I have no idea, man.
No. That's not it.
So so you're writing it down, are you?
Yeah,
And
just
Yeah,
so that
so we don't
just
cheat
so
against
it's an
each other.
honor system.
okay. And when are you revealing this?
30
In
seconds.
like 13
Okay,
seconds.
okay, I
Yeah.
see. Okay.
It's an honor system so that the first person that says something can't say, "Oh, well, I'm going to change it to whatever."
Right. Okay. Go
Okay, I
ahead,
got mine.
Mr. Winnerman. Tell me what you
Okay.
got this week.
Dude, sometimes I have a strategy. This week I have no idea what's going to happen. My guess is $52,088.47. 52.88.
52.88 and how many cents?
47 cents.
47 cents. Now, it's only happened one time that we actually had to use the pennies on this, but I think it's still important to do it. This year or this week, I'm a little more bullish than you, but it could be a good one. This could be a good competition next week. I'm going to go 54,310 and 52.
Okay.
So,
Pretty close.
batters,
Yeah.
did you want to throw your hat in this ring?
Yeah, and I've got one. It's mainly based on sort of wishful thinking. In
Okay.
that I have just gotten the proceeds from my flat sale, and so I am gonna go 41,547.
Oh, you're hoping we drop
547.
down. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Some
But
people
I
are calling
think,
it the 30s, eh? So
but also I think I'm not I'm not really unfair with this, but I think there's some quarterly reports coming. So
Oh, that's
if
true.
somebody shows that they have Bitcoin on the balance sheet, I think it's very likely
Yeah.
that we could see a next leg up, but who knows?
You
Okay.
never know. You never know. But it's fun to speculate for sure.
But
Thanks for
I
playing
just
with us.
let me
Yep.
just if I can, just finish up with a quote. And
Oh, I have
this is
another
kind of
question for you, real
I have
quick.
one more question too.
okay. So
Jeff, go ahead.
Okay, my question comes from the audience this
All
week.
right, that was my question too. Go ahead.
Okay, the question is, what is the best accompaniment to radishes?
yeah, this is Rebel Money. He's a dick.
Okay, I have no idea what the joke was, and I'm like, I gotta figure
Okay.
out what's going on
No,
here.
it's he's trying to get me to sort of reveal my punchy nature. See, my wife is an incredible cook, and we're both very into food. And as I say, we grow everything and make everything from scratch. So, Rebel Money is part of 21ism, by the way.
Okay, cool.
And he was telling me that he'd grown some radishes, and I said, you know what, radishes, they're great with a little sort of anchovy mayonnaise. And he thought that was hilarious because it was a bit poncy or posh. But it's true.
Anchovy mayonnaise, huh?
All
Yeah.
right,
I would not have thought of that as a pairing, but I can give it a shot.
that's a choice.
Fuck
I'm
you,
not a big
Rebel.
fan of anchovies or of mayonnaise, but or of radishes. But maybe you throw all three of them together, and I got something. I'll have to give it a
Oh
go.
man, a good radish on a salad is pretty nice, actually.
Okay.
I
Okay.
enjoy
I'm
that.
not a foodie, man. I am very basic in what I eat, and that's one of the things I've been working on actually is trying to
Well,
branch out.
maybe next time we have you on, Batters, we'll do a little more food stuff and get Jeff up to speed on things. How's that? Would you be
That
willing
sounds
to come
good.
back on the show?
Oh yeah, man. I've really enjoyed this. It was a great chat.
Very
Absolutely.
good.
Thank you, man. It was awesome to have you on the show for sure.
All right.
But
So what did
but
you want to quote there?
well, it was sort of to kind of tie in with why we're here in the first place, both in Bitcoin, but more specifically also why you guys had me on in the first place. And it's a quote by Hal Finney, who many, including me, believe maybe possibly was Satoshi. And this is back from the old days, right? Hal Finney died in 13, so this is I don't know exactly when he said this, but it's a long time ago. He said, "Since we're all rich with Bitcoin, or we will be once they're worth $1 million, like every one of us expects, we ought to put some of this unearned wealth to good use." So, as I say sometimes, as I believe, a privilege is only worth having if you share it. And so I'd
Absolutely.
encourage everyone to, use the privileges they have and spread the wealth.
Absolutely. Good message, man.
Cannot end on a better note than that, my friend. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. Please check out Batters in all the locations. The links will be down in the description. Batters, thanks so much for joining us this week. This has been a great conversation. I look forward to getting to know you better through the internet and everything else. And I don't know, Jeff, take us out, would you?
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks once again to Batteries, guys. Make sure to check out 21ism. And as always, why ask what when you can ask why? What? Oh, okay. Cut.